I don't know about tonight's video. I don't know if Derek and I know what we're doing anymore. I don't think we know the difference between our Glens and our James. So I just think we need to take a step back and learn a little bit about the Glens. So what are the Glens? Well, if anybody that's walked down the Scotch side of a liquor store, you've seen a lot of Scotch that begins with Glen. What is Glen? Glen, or Glan, is Gaelic for valley. And in the valley, we get all the water coming down from the mountainsides. And with that water, they usually produce such great Scotch whiskey. So there's a lot of Glens. This is just a very, very small sample. You have the Glengarry, you have the Glen Grant, the Glen Deveron, the Glen Glasgow, the Glen Alecky. Deep, rich, super flavorful, unlike the light Glen Cadam, the Glen Morangy, the Glen Dronic, the Glen Torrent, and the Glen Going. But the two most popular Glens are the Glenlivet, which is the valley of the River Livet, and Glenfiddich, or the valley of the Deer. By far, two of the most popular selling Glens. And we should never mix these up. We should also never confuse a Glen with the son of James.
Welcome back. Tonight we're going back to Scotland. For tonight's tasting challenge for Tom, we're going with Glenlivet 12. Glenlivet 12 is a Speyside Scotch, aged 12 years, 80 proof. You'll notice that it's light, it's fruity, it's well put together. Glenlivet's an interesting one. It's probably a good entry-level Scotch. It's one of those things that I probably don't go and drink very much anymore, but when I was first learning about Scotch, it was definitely something that I gravitated to as a kind of entry-level training kind of Scotch. It doesn't got a lot of flavor profile, but it's always very well made and has a high quality. The line also offers some really interesting things if you start going to some of their more specialty products. Sorry about that. Thought this was open. We'll put it back where it belongs so Tom doesn't notice anything's missing. Alright, well, let's go get him and see if he can figure out what this drink is. Alright, welcome back. That one took a little longer than I was anticipating. I've got to take the top off in advance, so.
Oh, it's all good. Alright. So what do you got for me today? You got me pretty good last time.
I think actually today is probably stuff you're going to be a much better chance of catching.
Okay. Yeah, that's Chivas Regal, man. I can't believe we did that.
I mean, we don't drink it necessarily, but a lot of people do, and I thought they'd appreciate, getting our thoughts on it.
Well, I gotta say, it wasn't bad for its price point.
No, I was actually impressed.
Yeah, it was better than I would have anticipated. So I suppose that was a nod and a plus for the chivalry. So you got this hit today?
Yeah.
All right.
We probably put this in the classic category.
Classic category. Okay. Nice light amber to it. Ooh, I think I'm working with an Irish.
I can see that.
Getting a little of that classic kind of butter cookie.
But compared to the Chivas, and it's got a lot of notes to it.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, it's unlike the Chivas. I mean, you had to try and stick your nose really in it.
Really had to snuffle into it to get something out of it.
Yeah. although I'm getting more, it's more robust.
I mean, this is soft and subtle,
yeah.
But at least there's something there.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very light on the palate and very weak on the finish. Dries out a little bit on the finish.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not have assumed that off the nose.
It's mellow.
Definitely mellow. I think I'm getting an entry level Irish here. I think.
Okay.
I think that's where I want to be here.
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely malt. I suppose it could be, could be something in the Space Side family. I suppose it could be something, something off the beaten path a little bit. But you said classic, so.
So good, bad. I mean,
You know what? I think I might have a guess.
already.
Yeah.
Okay. You save that to the end, or you're gonna come out swinging?
I don't know. might have the right to reserve my opinion.
All right.
Change my opinion. I don't know. So if this is what I think it is, This is another one of those. If I'm in a spot that doesn't have a lot of Scotch selection, there's not a lot of inventory. It's a beer place or something like that, and my whiskey choices are limited. This, again, assuming it is what I think it is. Outperforms, especially whenever I've done this blind to others.
Yep.
If I ever poured this blind to others, they were kind of shocked that that's what they were drinking. It's simple. It's an easy drink.
Mm-hmm.
It's very approached by all, and that's why it's a very popular. Again,
it's very popular. Very popular.
And often people do shots with this.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So again, assuming it is what I think it is.
All right. So maybe set that aside.
I will. Okay.
All right. Kind of go back through the normal kind of criteria, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think you like it. So
yeah.
For what it is.
It's
not bad.
This is a better product than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah. So how old do you think it is?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's not an age-stated product. Again, assuming I'm right. So I'm going to assume it's probably only a couple of years, 3 years, 4 years.
Yep.
I don't think it's probably any more than that. It's mass-produced. I'm going to say it's probably 90 proof.
Okay.
Maybe 86.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I think it might even be less than that. I'm trying to recall what it actually is. It's light and it's easy, so it's probably less than that. I'm definitely not getting it here, so got a very, very affordable price point.
So you're saying like $29.99
for maybe even for a liter.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, actually, it's probably $40 for the 1 3/4.
Okay, well that's very reasonable.
But it is. It's a staple in whiskey. So yeah, I actually think I'm drinking Jameson.
Okay, so he's calling it out.
I'm calling it out.
All right. Just give it a rating.
Yeah, I mean Jameson is. I mean, it's nondescript on so many different levels.
Mm-hmm.
What makes Jameson is its approachability, its agreeability with pretty much any entry level whiskey drinker. It's probably the easiest whiskey you can start your whiskey journey on. Is a glass of Jameson. But for me, I give a lot of credit for what it is, but it's nondescript in all three categories. So it's a 7.4. It's a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah, which is still a good rating for
sure. So do you have a category for it?
Yeah,
I guess we've kind of described this is like well whiskey.
Yeah. This is I know I spoke highly of the Knob Creek if I wanted something on the kind of well side and a little bit more bite. If I want something on the well side that's easier to go with, it's Jameson. I'm not afraid to order a Jameson.
Cool.
You know, people sometimes look at me like, you know, because they know I drink a lot of the high-end scotch and whatnot. And when I order Jameson, somebody's like, "You're ordering a Jameson?" Yes, it's not bad.
Well, I think William Grant would be pretty disappointed in you.
Really?
Yeah, I think he would. And since it's on your side of the bar, why don't you get the Glenlivet 12 over there?
Oh, no!
Did I put it back? I put it back, right? Yeah, 12. The fourth one over on the bottom. No, fourth over, right there.
Glenfiddich.
Yes.
And that's the dry.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
So
sorry.
this is what you poured, huh?
Yeah. Did I say Glenlivet? I meant Glenfiddich, sorry.
Yeah. So that's the dry finish.
I may have made that mistake at the opening too. I showed the bottle, but I may have said the wrong.
Yeah. So this is actually the only Glenfiddich that I actually really enjoy.
Really?
Yeah. Because it's not overly oaky. It's not overly dry.
Yep.
As you start going up in the years, I think you get more. It dries out on you more. And
Yep.
I was pretty close on the price point still, although this is a little bit more
A
than
little
Jameson.
bit more expensive, but
And yes, this would qualify on the well of of not a lot of inventory at a bar.
I know what threw me off. Earlier when we were talking, you'd mentioned Glenlivet.
Yeah,
And that got stuck in my
it
head.
got stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Although I do kind of consider them similar.
Yeah, matter of fact, I want to do a blind of this side by side with Jameson now. I'm only going to assume that I get a little bit more of a little less dry.
Yep.
On the Jameson, but
It's pretty nondescript, right?
Yeah.
It's clean. It's whiskey, but it doesn't have a lot of distinguishing characteristics.
yeah,
Easy drinking. So I mean, I see why you put it in that category.
but that's a win for you.
Yeah, I think so. I was that.
That's a win for you. Get me back to that. now.
Well, cheers.
Cheers.
It was still fun.
It was fun. Yeah, I should have hung on to that dry note.
Yeah, I think the finish is still more Scotch than Irish.
It's just super nondescript and super light.
Yep.
And yeah, I did. I went immediate to Jameson.
But this is also a good kind of example. Like, actually picking it is hard.
Oh, no question.
Right? And then the more subtle the whiskey, you've got less things to go.
Correct. Yeah.
There's not a lot of flavor note differential between this and an Irish whiskey per se. So taking those subtle things out becomes harder.
Yeah. Well, that's
that cut of corn in a bourbon is really easy to notice.
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
You get that real quick.
Yeah. The only on the bourbon side, I think it gets a little trickier depending on the level of rye.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I can draw out a rye note, but I'm still in bourbon land.
Yes. For me, the ryes are really spicy. Like I don't particularly like them because of that.
Yeah, I tend to draw that spice out even in a bourbon. If it's a high rye bourbon, especially, it's like that first thing. It's like all I got was the rye over the caramel and the vanilla.
That becomes an overpowering flavor.
Right, and that's like the first shot. It's the second and third draw off the nose. How the caramel comes in, the vanilla comes in, and the rye for me kind of settles out. But that's what's fun about this process. You know, you learn a little bit more about each bottle. You know, you thought you knew something.
Yeah.
You know,
and these are bottles that 8 years ago maybe we were drinking more frequently.
Oh yeah.
But nowadays we don't. You know, much more self.
For that matter, this actually bottle is a good example of how my taste buds have really changed over the years.
Yep.
I used to like the 14, which is the 14 Glenfiddich. I was on the 15 kick for a while. And now, other than this one, I'm not a big fan of Glenfiddich at all. I just think they're very dry, very oaky on the finish. It's just not a profile that I prefer anymore. But 4 or 5 years ago,
and this is a pretty classic. You know,
it's classic.
Some bourbon, some aged in bourbon, some aged in Ostrosa sherry.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mix. But it's really light. I don't get really any of the sherry notes.
No, not at all. No, I don't. Matter of fact, I don't even get any of the traditional Scotch, earthy. I mean, there's obviously no peat in this, but there's no earthy or typical Scotch funk as a non-Scotcher would call it. I don't get any of this in this bottle at all. And in comparison to something similar with the Glenlivet, that's not dry at all in the finish. That's actually a little bit, although still relatively nondescript. it's got a little bit more fruity linger
Mm-hmm.
on the back end.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well, you got me.
Yeah, I'm surprised. Actually, that's when I thought
Now,
this was gonna be a little easier.
I don't know if I've ever would have guessed a Glenfiddich.
All right.
It's like you say, it's not all that descriptive. So, but it was fun nonetheless.
Good.
And you taught me something today.
We'll see what you can do next time.
All right.
All right.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. Salud.
And you're right. They don't take shots of this.
No.
They do take shots of James.
They do.
All right, Derrick. I got to do this.
All right.
I brought in the Jameson. We're going to take a splash of JMO. And we're going to see
What we
if I
think?
was close. Yep. Or if I was really off by rocker. So, got the classic. You can get the 1.75 bar top.
Yep. For mass distribution.
Yes. All right, so I got the Glen on my right.
So the Glenfiddich had more nose.
Glenfiddich has a little bit more nose. Yeah, to the point where I'm almost getting nothing.
I get almost nothing. Yeah, I was gonna say I get very little to nothing. Now, what if that has anything to do with the fact that the bottle's half open? It's half gone in. Does that change
I think it's
anything?
got more something to do with
Just
it's
the
Jameson, you know. Yeah, the dry goes away. The butter cookie kicks in on the finish a little.
It's thinner.
It is thinner, but wetter.
Wetter. When I say
Yeah.
thinner, that tends to means it wets out my tongue.
I mean, this doesn't have a dry note on the finish at all.
No.
And it does. It feels wetter, watery on the palate.
Boy, that is easy drinking, though.
It is easy drinking.
I mean, I've had a lot of this on St. Patrick's Days over the years.
Yeah. And I gotta say, I might like it better than the Glenfiddich.
Well, I'd say from a tasting standpoint, the Glenfiddich has more to like digest.
Yeah.
So that makes it a little more interesting. But if this is just like, I'm just sipping, relaxing, the linger's better. The finish is like this is really dry after having the Jameson. Now this seems really dry, wet.
Right.
On its own,
Yeah.
I didn't notice it as much.
You didn't
But
notice
in
much.
comparison,
This became even more dry.
and honestly, that's a good point I was thinking about the other day as I was writing up my notes kind of for just what I want to talk about. When we just talk, we have one drink. I'm kind of judging it on its merits.
Yeah.
But comparative, so there's kind of individual kind of ratings and individual notes as it stands alone. But then there's the comparativeness of how it stands up against something else. And sometimes that's gives you more information.
More it really does. No, it really highlights it on how close things are, or how far removed they are.
You notice the differences between two things when you have that thing to compare.
Yeah.
But is it just a standalone? Sometimes it's hard to pick those things out.
Yeah.
So I noticed a wetness or dryness in comparison, but not necessarily as a standalone.
So you like the Glenfiddich a little better than Jameson?
From a tasting standpoint, yes.
Yeah.
But from I'm sitting at the bar standpoint, I'd rather have another Jameson than I'd rather have another.
I would agree with you. I think the Glenfiddich got a slight uptick in just character in general.
Mm-hmm.
But I would overall prefer the Jameson.
But if somebody was like new to Scotch or they want to try Scotch and didn't have any kind of flavor,
Glenfiddich. So
that's something I would. Hey, we'll try that. See what you think. This is light, and then you can build from there. Then you have a baseline of what you should expect.
And especially coming from the bourbon side of things, they might actually like the Glenfiddich a little bit more, only because you got a little bit more oak character. It's a little bit more from the barrel,
which is historically something I don't like. I don't like oak. I don't like oakiness. I prefer something that's been aged.
And that's where my palate's changed as well. I used to like a little bit more of the oak, and I don't like that dry finish as much, or that overly oak finish. The only double oak thing I really like is Woodford double oak. Anything else that comes advertised as double oak,
too much oak.
usually is.
Yeah.
I'll try it.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll try anything.
We'll try anything. All right, JMO it is.
Very good.
Oh, you got me again.